Hello.
It's our interview, remember?
Oh, that's now.
Yeah! Welcome to Practice from Breaks with IMSLP. I'm your host, Natalie, and today we have the world-renowned concert violinist, pedagogue, and AI entrepreneur, Callum.
Thank you, and what an introduction.
You've had a lot of significant achievements in your career at a young age. I mean, you won the BBC Young Artist Prize in 2010. I'm curious, one, how and why you started the violin, and two, how those early successes kind of helped you develop as an artist or influenced you.
Well, I started violin when I was 6 years old. Just had a very passionate music school teacher. He really inspired me to kind of pick up the instrument. I remember for the first 2-3 months I was strumming it like a guitar. I didn't even know that it had a bow. So I think I was just like really drawn to it and drawn to performing and kind of making music and sharing that with people. So I think quite quickly I accelerated at it because I was doing it a lot, and I had fantastic teachers that would kind of guide me. As you mentioned, I entered the BBC Young Musician of the Year competition and had success in that, and that really kind of helped launch my career, allowed me bigger opportunities with great orchestras and great venues, and I think that was when things started to really take off, so I was really happy to have entered that competition. I think at the time I didn't really realise how big it was. You know, being on TV, I think if I was a bit older, I would have been more aware of the situation, but at the time it was just like, oh, Mendelssohn Violin Concerto.
Since then, you've performed with, countless orchestras at countless amazing venues. Can you tell me about a particularly memorable performance experience, one that stands out to you?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one because I have so many fond memories, but I think professionally, I remember my debut with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. That was a really special moment for me because that's an orchestra I've always looked up to. I remember I was warming up in the dressing room before the first rehearsal, and the double bassist was unpacking his instrument, and he was like, oh, you're playing Brook Concerto? I was like, yes, I'm playing Brook Concerto today. He's like, oh, we did that last night with Zuckerman in the proms. And I was thinking, oh, wow. It was a little bit daunting, but also really validating feeling of, oh, I can do this. I'm kind of, amongst that sort of level of playing. And I think it was really inspiring to me and really motivating for me to kind of push onwards in my career.
I love that your reaction was, oh my God, like I am at this level. And when you told me that, I was like, oh no, like I'd walk out.
It was definitely a mixture of both, but I had to pick the more positive one.
You're also a pedagogue. You teach at the Royal Northern College of Music. I'm curious about your teaching philosophies. Like, what do you want to bring to your students?
I was lucky to have great teachers who really taught me, the kind of principles of violin playing and really how to practice well. Where with all of my students, I'm looking to make sure they're set up really well, that they feel comfortable with the instrument. I think that's kind of the first things to take care of, that they feel that whatever career they go into, whether it's orchestra or solo or chamber music or something else, they feel that they have the tools to do what they are going to want to do. Beyond that, it's so individual to the student, but looking at, helping them with performance, how they perform on stage, how they manage their performance, expectations and pressure of performing on stage. I talk a lot about that with my students. Also, I think especially now in our generation, we have to also think about other tools outside of just our violin playing, such as, social media, how you contact promoters, how you want to define what sort of career you want to go into. So a lot of career development. I don't spend, all the lesson talking about that, but I make sure that that's part of the education over the course of a 4-year course, for instance. I think it's always a challenge because there's so much to fit into a course, and always the argument is, well, what's going to be removed if we put this in? But I think there's a way to include it in a way that doesn't kind of dominate the education, but it's part of, these are things that you're going to have to probably learn when you leave, and here's some tools to kind of get started on that journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome. High five, that's too
Okay,
formal.
I'll take a high five.
There we go. I don't play the violin. but I am just very intrigued by everything you're saying. So can you teach me?
I can certainly try.
You can try.
Let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go.
Absolutely.
Let's give it a go.
You can let go of your arm. That's it. And just like shake your shoulder. So like relax your shoulder. That's it. That's good. And then like you'll see like we hold the violin with the chin. The point of a shoulder rest is that you don't have to do anything here really.
Oh, wow.
So that's it. So like if you relax your shoulder, you don't actually need that, right?
Whoa.
So like feels a bit strange. If you just like bring the hand up to the instrument,
Okay.
right there, you're holding the violin.
Wow.
That's a beautiful violin hold right there. So if you take the chin off, right, you're not going to drop it, I'm holding it for you.
Okay.
So you see how like it rests there. So the other way to hold it, right, is in the palm of the hand. So if you relax your hand, see, you're not going to drop the violin.
No.
So we don't want to squeeze with the chin,
Okay.
but it's just resting. That's why it's called the chin rest.
Got it.
Yeah, that's it. That's good. So it's all just about like feeling where we're really tense and then what we actually need to hold the instrument. It's actually very little.
This is actually easier than I thought it would
Yeah.
be. Brilliant.
So should we go to step 2?
Yes, please.
Firstly, before you do anything, if you just shake your right hand, yeah, that's it. And if you make like a circle with the thumb and the third finger, that's it. Yeah, and just like really relax. Like basically we want to hold the bow like the bow's not there, right? The more that we're trying to kind of hold the bow in this way, it's very unnatural. So we want to hold the bow like almost like a conductor would hold a baton or something. You know, it's
like
in the hand, but it's very light. That's pretty good, you know?
It's pretty good?
I think a lot of people sometimes overcomplicate how we hold the bow. You know, we said like, this finger must go here and this finger goes here. And we end up being kind of quite stressed when we first learn. So that's honestly pretty good.
Okay.
If you remove the bow, you see the shape of your hand. It's pretty much exactly the same. Yeah,
wow.
That's pretty good.
So basically my pinky is the strong one and everything else is just very relaxed.
Yeah, basically. I mean, when we start playing on the string, that will change. So for instance, if you do this once, if you reverse it, so turn it this way, do you feel now how the weight will sit in this finger? Basically, when we're playing the violin, we're using different sets of muscles in our forearm, in this part of the arm.
Okay.
Right, so if you turn it, do you feel how like this is kind of rotating?
Yes.
That's it.
Cool.
That's a pretty good start. I say like, why don't we now combine them together, see if we can get a note? Look at you!
It's like a magic wand!
Okay, cool.
Boom.
So now we're going to put them together. Relax here. That's it. Nice and easy. And what we'll do for now is just hold in the palm of the hand. That's it. So you don't need to worry. You're not going to drop that. Like it's just sitting there, right? You can really relax your shoulder. That's it. And if you're worried about it, look, what's going to happen if you let go of your chin now? Right? It's not going anywhere. You're holding it in your hand. To put it as simply as I can, if we're making a sound on the violin, right, we're putting the bow on the string and moving. That's it. That's pretty good.
Okay.
I'm just giving you the crash course as fast as I possibly can. We put our fingers down, we press our fingers down on the string to get different pitches. If we wanted C, right, second finger,
Oh.
right, that's it.
Oops. How do I stand?
So, how do you stay on the string?
Yeah,
right, so like depending on where you are, right? So E, A, D, G. So we're just moving the angle of the bow depending on where we want to play, right? We've picked A, you've chosen A. That's it, so you just have to keep it here. That's it. Let's try a 3. There we go.
Here, okay.
That's it.
Do I press both of them down?
You can. It will always play the highest one.
Oh.
That's it. And then we can try 4. A little bit higher.
Oh, I moved the string.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
you got it.
Oh, okay, wait. Oh.
That's it. So that's pretty good, you know?
I love the analogy of sitting in a chair.
Yeah, that's it. That's a really nice sound, and because you're a musician, like you're already a little bit more sensitive to like the muscles. This is basically, in a nutshell, how you can start playing the violin. So I wouldn't overcomplicate it at first with anyone. Just kind of think a little bit how you're going to hold it, how you're going to hold it here, and then just move a little bit and see kind of what happens. Next stop, Mendelssohn Violin. Isn't it funny, like, when you learn something later, that, for instance, like, you've always seen the violin, and you have, like, a preconception of what you should be doing.
Exactly.
And, like, straight off the bat, you're, like, you feel like you have to really hold, like this is going to be this really precious thing that if you drop it, you know, you're in a lot of trouble. I have like beginner students just practice over a bed. Because it's like, then if you drop it, like which you wouldn't, but even if you did, like nothing would happen.
That is so
and sometimes like removing that like barrier frees people up a lot, especially like somebody like you who might like have like preconceptions of like what it feels like to hold a violin.
Speaking of violin teaching, let's get into your cool tutorials that you share on Instagram. You have a really big platform. What motivated you to start posting on social media, and how do you balance that with everything else you do?
I was first kind of getting into it in COVID, actually. I really miss kind of the connection with my colleagues and students and fellow performers. I've always been somebody that's really fascinated by the violin and the technique of the violin, how you practice, how you put things together. And I realized that there was an opportunity or a space to share more information about it, and a little bit of both of keeping me motivated to practice during the pandemic, and also just starting to see the bigger picture of really how lucky I was in terms of the education I had. You know, I was able to study with some of the world's best teachers, and that's a really kind of privileged position that I was in. And I wanted to kind of, as much as I can, fill the gap in terms of providing, you know, interesting pedagogical information that people, you know, all across the world could access for free.
I think that's a great segue into talking about Caidence, which is your AI violin pedagogue. Can you tell me about, first of all, about Caidence and what inspired this innovation and how you see sort of the future of what you do as a teacher change with this, you know, introduction of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cadence is a generative AI chatbot. So kind of similar to ChatGPT in terms of that you ask it a question, you know, how do I practice my vibrato, how do I practice my intonation, and it will give you a very thoughtful and curated answer. So what's kind of unique about Cadence is, unlike ChatGPT, which is pulling from the whole internet, and you know, you may not know how trustworthy the information that you're going to get back is. Cadence has been trained by leading resources and has been trained by myself to be able to differentiate information and provide information that violinists can actually trust. I'm always looking to see what's happening in other industries, and I've seen that, especially at the moment, AI is a huge subject and one that basically all industries are embracing. And I saw that classical music was quite hesitant, and I didn't really see it happening much in the classical music space. And I think I'm somebody that always is looking forward and looking, how can I bring new initiatives into my world and my space? And that was kind of what prompted me to go down that road.
Fast forward, let's say 5-10 years from now, how do you see Cadence as a pedagogue in this space? I mean, what would Cadence be doing in, like, let's say, a classroom? Is that even a possibility?
I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for AI in music. I mean, I think at the core of it, it's important to remember that it's not a replacement for violin teaching. You know, working with a violin teacher that can kind of show you how to do things for you specifically is irreplaceable. And as we just saw in that little segment that we did together, a chatbot can't tell you how to do that. You need a real person that can see, that can feel, and that can guide you in that process. But I can absolutely see AI being a huge support to the education process. And I think the future is, I mean, so many things could happen. I think, you know, especially exploring the way, you know, AI can listen or see or interact with you. So I think there's a lot that could happen. People that embrace it from a standpoint of how can we support what's already happening, not in terms of replacing. I think those people will do exciting things in this space.
Ludwig, IMSLP's chatbot, which is much more of like study guide, music history, music theory, finding scores, they should talk to each other.
I think they'd have a good conversation.
I think they have a very interesting conversation. I completely agree with everything you're saying.
It gives you possibilities. If you're an imaginative and creative person, you can ask it and use it to help you create more ideas than you could possibly kind of implement yourself. And I think that that's what AI can do, and I think that that's what makes it really exciting for our industry.
Everyone should really check out your AI and have it as a practice helper.
I've been really enjoying like hearing the feedback we've been hearing from lots of people that have been using it, and that it's already helping violinists, I think, is a big mission of mine, and making it free and accessible as well was something I was really passionate about doing. Again, just like I do on Instagram, making sure that there's plenty of accessible content that people can use to help guide them in the learning process.
Curious, do you use Caidence when you practice?
I do sometimes use it, and it's really interesting. It's helped me a lot with teaching as well, because some of my students, sometimes they'll ask me specific questions. I trained Cadence as well with a lot of different etudes, Kreutzer, Rhodes, Don, all of these different people. But I went through and all of the individual categories, like intonation, vibrato, spiccato, and I categorized and labeled all of the different studies for each of those categories. So if you ask Cadence, how do I practice my intonation? It won't just tell you general advice, but it will give you specific etudes to practice. So I've used that myself. Sometimes I'm thinking, oh, that student could use something for vibrato. And it's quite a helpful, quick reference of, there's a kind of plethora of options that I can give them, and having that on hand can be very helpful.
That's awesome. How do I access Cadence?
You can just go to www.callumsmart.com, and it's a tab Cadence in there, or you can just type in Cadence.
Before we end, I have to ask this question. When do you remember a time that IMSLP either came to the rescue for you, or like a particular memory with IMSLP?
I have a lot. I mean, especially as a student, I think we've all been there. You weren't able to find the music somewhere. Maybe you left your music at home. I remember several times, but one time specifically where I was performing Beethoven Spring Sonata in a recital. I had all of the other music, but I'd left the Spring Sonata at home, and I was already at the concert venue. It was in the middle of, I can't remember exactly where in England, but it was in the countryside, and there was no service, no anything, and I didn't have an iPad at this time. I remember kind of panicking, calling around people, okay, can you go on IMSLP and print out the Spring Sonata? And it was invaluable resource. Luckily I was able to do the concert because I did not know that one by memory. So
I am really glad that we pulled through for you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. It was me.
It was you personally.
It was me personally. I did it for you. I had a wonderful time, and I'm very excited to use Cadence after this.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you today.
High five. I don't like these handshakes.
Well, you keep going in for the handshakes.
I know. Why do I do another high five?
Okay.
There we go. Thank you for watching Practice Room Breaks with IMSLP, and we'll see you next time.